All right, welcome back from that interesting conversation with One Arafat, who is very strong-minded and ready to get into the boxing ring, showcase his very best of what he's been taught through his boxing club to be able to win the championships, hopefully. And so that brings us back into the studio. I am Priscilla Regina Naloga, and thank you so much for continuously being with us on Friday's edition of Morning at NTV. Now, as we turn the bend to July, we definitely want to bring a conversation that is quite important. Why do I say this? Because in one way or another, between the next 48 to 60 hours, many of you are going to have to consider certain things in the lenses of this subject matter. And therefore, we're going to be looking at fashion here on Morning at NTV and its evolution in the 21st century, defining the fashion landscape and unearthing the dynamic cultural phenomena that is in fashion, especially from the African perspective, and localizing it to the Ugandan perspective and the influence thereof on the modern day design. Now, to give a background, fashion has always been a way for people to express themselves and their personalities. It is also constantly evolving, changing with the times, changing with the trends. I remember back in school, when I was in high school, we had not the bell bottoms per se, but something in between the bottoms and the skinnies. And then suddenly the skinnies come in vogue, and you have to throw out the other jeans and now adapt to the skinnies. And so that adaptation has also been resonated with hip hop and fast fashion, street wear. You're looking at athletic wear. And so the landscape has continued to evolve here and there. It's become more diverse and more inclusive. Of course, when you look at the history also, the tapestry has been woven through the threads of innovation, the threads of tradition, how certain threads are actually harvested from different waters, from different parts of the world. And so all those come into a rhythm to actually create something that is so breathtaking at the end of the day. It also comes with a reflection on values. It comes with a reflection on beliefs. You'll find that a certain part of the world, they cover themselves completely, and that's a fashion sense. Should you go in that territory, you must abide by how their fashion sense is. And then there's also the aesthetics of the day with the different eras that fashion. But fashion is the one thing that has kind of remained constant. It evolves itself to the new era, to technology, it's evolving, to industrialization, it's evolving. So it's one of those elements of society that is a constant. It's here to stay. Well, I'm privileged to be having this conversation with people who have also stood the test of time enough to be with me on my panel. I do have Ronnie Nsubuga here. I do have the famous Latif Madrid, and of course Andrew Kagwa. I'm going to allow them their salutations. Then we get into the questions for the day, starting with my immediate left.
Yes. My name is Ronnie Nsubuga, and I'm the CEO of Crystal Models Africa. Together with the president, I'm also the president of the Part of Africa Fashion Alliance. So I'm into fashion.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Red Glasses. Fashion, of course.
Yes, hello viewers in TV. My name is Latif Madoy. Call me Senior Intelligent Rasta, Sir Latif Madoy.
Yeah.
And I'm also a fashion tutor, a fashion performer. Like, I'm a fashion artist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. Many of you were previously used to his dreadlocks. Today they're no more. And he'll tell us how that fashion transition has also been in person. Andrew.
Andrew Kagwa Maiga, arts and culture journalist.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. He has added that other name, and it's going to raise questions. But we'll keep those questions for later on. Starting with a very plain question. And I say plain because I know that it resonates with each one of you differently. What is fashion in the 21st century? Ronnie.
In the 21st century, I would believe, to me, fashion is self-expression. Is the way I relate with anything. It could be my creativity, the way I dress up, the way I talk to you, literally everything. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay,
all right. Latif, what would be fashion to you? Who's a tutor, a performer? Yeah.
All right. Basically, I'll definitely speak from the tutorial perspective, because I know many viewers would like to learn more.
Yeah.
And when we talk of fashion, you know, fashion is basically style. But when you combine the two, fashion and design, to me, I define it as the art of using units of measurements and degrees, you know, to form something. Yeah, and units of measurements.
Yeah.
So that's basically fashion designing, because fashion is basically style and designing is the art of creating something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Which Kofira, you have made that hat part of your signature look most recently, and why is that so?
Yeah.
Wait, I thought you were going to ask me what is fashion.
Yeah, in relation to what is fashion, when you answer what is fashion, and then you also explain us why you have a signature look recently.
I would describe fashion the way I usually describe art, like it's the way of life. Most of the times we end up dressing up based on the way we feel or we feel about something, or based on what we want to communicate. So about my look of recent, like I'm not going to say that. Like,
as to why you gave yourself a signature look. Okay, all right. Now, there's some people could be asking, I'm only having men on this table, yet quote-unquote fashion seems to be a women's thing, or more consumed by women by and large. And so let me ask each one of you to let us know, how did you enter fashion, and why have you chosen to actually make fashion your daily bread and your annual being and your life? Ronnie.
To me, I entered the fashion industry as a photographer, and I remember we owned a studio, and I ventured into fashion photography way back in the day, and all of a sudden I entered into modeling, because I used to shoot a lot of models way back in the day. It introduced me to events. I became an events organizer, show producer, and then boom, I entered into, you know, knowing people. I had to network with the industry stakeholders, and before you know it, now I own a modeling agency, and I speak on behalf of a lot of fashionistas out there. Besides that, I also do pageantry, so many people call me a grandfather of beauty queens in Uganda. Yeah, but it's all coming from the lens, I would say. I'm one person that at one time I think mastered the art of that lens. Anything to do with the lens, I was always backstage to see how it goes and then prepare people to face it. And yeah, look at where I am today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Kudos to you on that. Latif.
Yes, please. Well, though I defined fashion briefly, but basically to add on Mr. Kagwa,
Yeah.
what he said, because on a wider scope, fashion is a lifestyle. And I always tell people you can decide to live a fashionable life, because it's a lifestyle, something you can just decide to live like fashionably, being stylish and things like that, like Mr. Kagwa, you know. But fashion, I get into fashion when I was still very young. You know, I always wanted to be very unique, and I want to thank the Almighty One, our creator, guide and provider and protector, for, you know, enabling me discover myself at a very early age. That I discovered myself, and you know, it's something I discovered when I was still young and started developing to where I am. So I get into fashion when I'm still young at school, and I'm admiring this, I'm admiring that, from not a very well-to-do family, but you're studying with ministers' sons and daughters. The bags they carry, the school bags and stuff like that, and probably you cannot afford. But if you have the art, you have the skill, you can create something that is similar, which really prompted me, you know, into getting into deeply in fashion. I started as a craftsman, you know, creating small craft pieces like handbag, small bags, rings out of beads and stuff, and until I went to high school. And actually, fashion brought me a lot of problems, where I introduced
It's still bringing you a lot of problems.
Yes. It started way back in high school. I introduced what they called fancy dressing at Navamali High School, and it led to my expulsion. You know, it was really, it really disturbed me, and I promised myself to buy Narumali High School at one time, to turn it into a fashion school. But because of the resources and the capacity, I couldn't do that, so that's why I opened my own school, Latif Academy Talent School. So they expelled me from high school because of introducing fancy dressing. Everybody's wearing the hats. And after designing the school team jerseys, you know, labeling them with the school badge and the numbers at the back, they did not consider that. So they expelled me at HSC, but you know, all level was in Masaba Senior School. So I would go to Mbale SS, of course, after registering for my senior 6. I went to Mbale SS where I found my former headmaster from Masaba Senior School. And I explained to him that I've been expelled for fancy dressing at ABCD, and he was like, oh, same problems, because he used also to run after me in O level. So he gave me a chance to study, even without paying school fees. Wow. But luckily enough, I had the school fees because I just lost my dad. He was working at the Supreme Council at that time. Sheikh Mubaje was lobbying for Mufuti. And my dad was now the acting district attorney. So Supreme Council was still paying for us, but I had the school fees still in my suitcase. So I went straight to buy a sewing machine. I bought the my first sewing machine in senior 6 second term, and the third term I still didn't pay school fees, but I got the fees, I bought a second machine. So that way I finished my high school, my HSC with 2 sewing machines, because that was my passion. I'd never even used the sewing machine. I used to watch my grandmom using a hand needle, and that's why when you see me perform at many fashion concerts, there's a dress that I create with a hand needle, and that's the most amazing dress that really wows people. So that's how I get into fashion. I start dressing students, basically fashion lovers. And I decided to open my school, basically to teach interested learners regardless of age, gender, race, religion, or even level of education. It's, we have a big testimony to what really happened recently before I was arrested, that our student from Latif Academy, a very young kid, won Little Miss Africa in Nigeria, Victoria Mutesasira. So. That's a round of applause.
Amen. All right, now turning to Andrew, you definitely cover and interact with this sector quite often on a daily as you look into the arts from different perspectives with your pen and your paper. And from where you are seated, what is the growth looking like for this industry in Uganda?
For example, when you just look at the red carpet, if we're to start with the red carpet, for instance, I think a lot has changed. My very first interaction with fashion was when I was a student. I could have been in senior 2. That time, because you know everything in Uganda that involves the president gets a lot of coverage. So probably it was a good dream. The daughter of the president ventured into fashion. I think they called it House of Kaine. I have no idea what happened to it after, but it was a big deal when it happened. The show was covered very well on both TV and the newspapers. So that was like the very first time we were like, okay, so Ugandans are doing this big thing. And because I think it was hosted by a South African TV host, like the main show, something like that. And then after that, I think this other lady did, I think, Kampala something. Fashion Week? Santanzo.
Yeah, Uganda International Fashion Week.
Yeah, Uganda International Fashion Week. Yes. So for me, that was the very first time like I started paying attention. But then, of course, when I became a journalist, I ended up covering mostly visual art, the film industry, and the rest. So somewhere when I was covering visual art, I meet Zenson. Senkava.
His Kafuruness.
Like Zenson is a different person altogether.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned on his designs, like usually scary in a way. And then I started following up. Somehow I ended up in a performance where his fashion designs were being used. And I think I was almost hooked. But to tell you how I see the progress. One, even when I had just become a journalist, it was very, very hard to see a red carpet where there were people that were actually wearing Ugandan designs and were proud to say it. Today, it's very easy to walk into a celebrity on the red carpet and you're like, who are you wearing? And they actually know who they are wearing. In fact, at that time, people did not even care to know whose outfits they are wearing because there were chances those people were not Ugandans. Right. Probably they walked into a store, like they saw a dress and they were like, yeah, I think I like that gown. They ended up with that gown and they could not say a lot about it. Today, when you ask someone why they are wearing the outfit they are wearing,
yeah, now it's if you're not wearing it customized,
like they will even have reasons why they chose that particular outfit, like even those tiny details. Like now, for instance, this is represented, like there will be that detail. Yeah. For me, I think that's a journey we've walked.
That's right.
Okay, all right. So Ronnie walks in here and we're having our first interaction, and he says he's not a designer. Please don't refer to me as a designer. I'm a fashion entrepreneur. So I guess collectively to be fashionpreneur, right? And so that is an indicator that the fashion industry has definitely grown leaps and bounds. Talk to us about those different dynamics that are presently existing and narrating the fashion industry.
I would say the industry has really grown and it's really big. It employs quite a lot of people. Today when you walk around Kampala, you'll find that a lot of people are into fashion, and all of us, like I introduced myself in the beginning, that I am not a fashion designer like Latif Modoe, You'd find that we all work in the fashion industry. It's a whole entire chain, where producers, where models, where stage, choreographers, you'll find manufacturers, retailers, you'd find people who are into backstage. They're everywhere. People who are into everywhere, I would say. The industry has grown so big that it employs quite a number of people that are not actually seen by lots of people. And it has been, I think, a mindset that when you're into the fashion industry, you're supposed to be a tailor or you're supposed to be a fashion designer. Yeah. That mindset has been there, and I think we're trying to really take it away, with all the sensitization that we're trying to put across to lots of Ugandans to know. And yeah, I believe that Uganda is really changing, really, really so fast.
Okay, all right. Dear tutor, do you want to elaborate on that also?
Oh yes, just to add on his point, with today's age and civilization, I always tell people that fashion supports life 99%. I used to say fashion supports music 99%.
In the corporate world, they would say your first impression matters. Yeah, but what they're really saying is how you're dressed.
Because Ronnie is saying he's not a fashion designer because I first of all defined what fashion designing is all about. Yeah. It's a way of using, the art of using units of measurements, degrees, to create something, to create a design, which is not practical doing, but he's into fashion. Fashion is so diverse and it really employs quite a number of people, of different minds. The journalists, the photographers, the writers, the creators, the pattern makers, the tailors, the marketeers, name them, even the fashion programs on TVs, things like that. So that's why I say fashion supports life 99%, because even before thinking of what you're going to do, okay, let's take an example of a musician. He will never think of coming to stage to sing before thinking of how he's going to present himself. Okay. And even anybody of us, you have to think, I got trouble, looking for what I should wear. I know NTV is about blue and things like that. So I was struggling to find some blue, to rhyme with NTV colors to represent.
Good.
You get. Yeah. So you have to put a mind to, the fashion sense has to be there, to present yourself. Even when you wear a trouser, you have to look for a matching shirt or jacket.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be talking about the identity and culture when it comes to fashion and how those actually have streamlined, but also how we can use them as opportunities to stay grounded in the vastity of society that is constantly changing. Today they're telling us there's only 2 genders. Tomorrow they tell us there's many genders. And so fashion is one of those elements that is used to make strong points in such subject matters of society. But Latif, yourself, you are an icon seated amongst us, given the fact that you have made designs for prominent people in the world. Like Dube being on top of that list there. Busy Signal, you know, mention it. And of course, locally here with Bobby Wine and how that has come to cost you again. Trouble for us. But in your own words, and if you can, tell us how you actually got to design for Lake Dube.
Oh, wow. That was another moment, you know. To me, that was the epic moment for me in my life, you know. I wouldn't say it's even an award, it's a record. To me, it's a record, you know, because no other Ugandan designer can claim that he will even ever design Lake Dube. That is not. So designing Lake Dube, it came about because I'd been designing, you know, in my workshop, creating designs and things like that. And because I use nature as my strong inspiration, my strongest inspiration, I consider nature. Basically, when I talk of nature, I'm talking about the geography, I'm talking about the human bodies. When you see me perform live, some designs I just create them. I don't actually come on stage with all the designs in my head. Sometimes I just have to look at someone's nature, the body shape, their complexion, and I also always have a collection of fabrics, so I match the fabrics and the colors with their complexion and the shape of their bodies to create a design. So designing Lake Dube was like a dream come true. I'd been using his music, playing his music in my creation when I'm working in my workshop, because I listened to a lot of his lyrics. They are really teaching and comforting and you know, giving hope. So when I heard I was actually in Mbali, walking on the street, then I read on the newspapers on the street, Lake Dube to perform in Uganda. It was about 2 months ahead. I was like, wow, now this is the moment. I just promised myself, told myself that I'm going to dress him. So I came back to Kampala, started, you know, looking out for his videos, what would be his favorite colors, what has he really not worn before, what could impress him, what could he not reject. You know, it was such a huge challenge. You know, designing something is okay.
And you're not even
but
interacting
someone
with him.
To
There's no
accept
social
it,
media to follow the trends that he's been up to, all the designers
that is
that he's worked
2003,
with.
Before Facebook and everything. You know? So it was such a huge challenge. What can I do? What can I make for him that he's not going to reject? Because remember, he's an international star. Probably he has a personal designer. And when he's traveling, someone has designed him already. But changing his mind, turn his mind, like his mindset, and is focusing on your outfit that you've created to accept and, you know, recognize you and wear it. It was actually here by then. It was called Nile Hotel. Well, I reached out to the sponsors, the organizers, and they gave me really a very hard time. The story is quite long. I won't go into that. But later on, I learned that Lake Dube was coming to National Theatre. I don't know how I met Sarah Zawede, because she was working closely with the National Theatre. Then she directed me to Madame Alice Rwanga, who was the house manager. When I told her my idea of designing Lake Dube, you know, gifting him, oh, she was very excited, and she was like, oh yes, Lake Dube is supposed to come here at National Theatre, and he's going to meet the artists and everybody. You know, they put me on the agenda, allocated me the time. That was a moment, you know. I had my mom with me, my girlfriend by then, and my friends. I really wanted to have a moment, you know, designing my star. Yeah, the dream came true, and of course that moment came. I introduced myself and presented the outfit to Lake Dube. He was very impressed, you know. He hugged me and he whispered in my ear, I have a design. I had an outfit, but I recognize this, I will wear this. So that's how it happened, and he wore the outfit at his VIP concert right here at Nile Hotel,
Right.
now the Serena Hotel.
Wow,
Yes.
wow, yeah, hats off for you in that regard. Everyone is
Yes.
nodding to that. But at the end of the day, of course, it's just one of the many that you've been able to work with in terms of fashion. And
Exactly.
how has that transformed you in terms of perspective? Because
Yes.
it's not just artists that you've worked with, you've worked with politicians, people from really different sectors that have come to work with you and partner with you. And I know that it has opened up your eyes to more things.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Actually, that's how things really started.
Yeah.
After designing like a Dube, the newspapers, all the papers in Uganda, if there was social media, you know what it would be. So the newspapers wrote, Ugandan designer gifted like a Dube, designed like a Dube, ABCD, an outfit worth these millions, and everybody was on me, give us money. But that was 2003. Then we had what we call Africa Fashion Competition in Niger. It was one of those strong points in my profile, you know, designing the star. And I think that's how I was considered, because we are about 9,050 designers in Africa who were supposed to, you know, apply. And they only needed 10 designers, and I qualified as the fourth qualifier to go and participate in the Africa Fashion Competition, which I won with a Bronze Thread Award, you know, to give me an arts residence in Paris, and also to do my internship and be recognized as an international designer. So that way, they attached me with an international designer as well, who dresses icons like DeForest Whitaker, Wycliffe Jean, and it's called Zulibet. He works in Paris. So that was like really epic. Things really started moving. When I graduated, it was the same year. I graduated at Tina International School. Greetings to my principal, Madame Tina Kivirige. So when I graduated at Tina, the whole newspapers wrote, amongst the designers, the graduates was designer Latif, who dressed like a dog. It was like I was the best student at PLE in Uganda. You know how it feels. You know?
Yes.
So I've always been riding on his recognition for me. Yeah, that's why I call it even a record. It's not even something to joke about.
Ronnie, this shows us that art is truly expression, and art is also opportunity. I know that you yourself have had windows of opportunity that you've tapped into, and have now you're now one that is of voice and of influence in the arts industry in Uganda. Beauty pageants, to mention but a few of your entrepreneurship works. And let's talk about that on the influence on other sectors, for example, tourism, and to mention others.
I believe working in the fashion industry personally has changed quite a number of people. Personally, I've mentored lots of people. I spend most of my time mentoring people, changing their mindsets. I do etiquette, you know, and it has got me closer to lots of Ugandans who really need to change something about themselves, especially in regards to behavior change. I didn't see this coming in the first place. You can imagine a student who went to do procurement and logistics management, and I'm now into fashion. And to me, the fact that it's expression, I'm now forced to teach people how to express themselves in regards to speech, in regards to the way they face the camera, in regards to the way they walk in heels, the way they walk out there and express themselves, the way they dress. I'm an image consultant, and a lot of celebrities now need my classes. I believe that is changing a lot of Ugandans from all sorts of places, both in corporate, you know, areas and etc. So this has changed a lot of people. I now talk about hair, I talk about cosmetics, I talk about jewelry, I talk about clothing, you know, but all because of fashion. That's why I say that this industry opens up doors to lots of things, I would say. Look at the beauty queens I've mentored. Today they can express themselves, they can sell Uganda, they can market the country with a lot of confidence. I've mentored a few people who are on TV, and they can face the camera and say, yes, this is not how I was, but now I can express myself. So I personally, this has been an opportunity to change people, and themselves also to change other people. So fashion is really big.
We do have two things that I want you to talk about. One is we used to have magazines that were our social media of those days. I've just learned of the Zenji magazine, but for me it was African Woman. Believe you me, African Woman was such a big magazine. I have cutouts of African women from fashion as well as recipes that used to be in there. That is how big it was. Actually, I should pull out those pieces and make
I know.
You
know, bring it up.
Yeah, I should. Anyway, let's talk about how that influenced the fashion industry back in time, and then its death. But then there's the evolution of social media that has also come to be very complementary to the work that is done by these.
Well, I think before I rush into that, I would just like to supplement a few things. Like, you know, King Sir has been on TV, and his is about like using music as a revolution, and for most people that might not know, fashion has been a very good tool people have used to spread messages of either resistance or taking a standpoint. From people growing their afros in the 1960s in the US to people wearing dreadlocks. Like, they were all forms of resistance, because from colonial masters to the people that were forcing down the white rule, they used to punish people by cutting their hair off. Like, we still do it in, we still do it in Uganda, where they arrest you, and the very first thing they want to do, even before they know that you're guilty, or they want to cut your hair off. So just to put that out there, like, fashion is quite a very big collaborator when it comes to making a standpoint. But now to get to your question, like, the opportunities that existed. When we had publications, the fashion industry managed to be an ecosystem that brings in more than fashion designers or the models. Because most of the times when you talk about fashion, the very first thing that comes to people's minds is there is a designer, and then there is a model that models the design. But at that time, we managed to get in writers, photographers, and I think the biggest winners in all that, the ones that even managed to stay beyond, were the photographers. But we managed to get in different people. I think that's because I used to read about fashion through other people's works. That's the time we got the lady of Fashion Police.
Oh, yes.
That's the time, years later, we managed to get the likes of Samson Baranga, Kanare Mugunme. There was some guy who ended up doing a website. Fashion Pit. Yeah. So we managed to get in a lot of people, but what happened to these establishments, and we ended up seeing them die? One, I think some of them were way ahead of their time. They did not really grow the way a business would grow and progress. Like, the time Zenji came into the space, I think Zenji was being printed from out of Uganda, and then it was being shipped back. Like, there is no way you can make money of that. And yet, for some of these things, even if you have sponsors, I don't think there is a way you can make money when you're shipping.
Okay. All right. Latif, in the presence of artificial intelligence, how are you protecting your work?
Well, you know, nature is such a strong element in the society, because we've seen plastic rice coming in on market. I don't know if you've heard of plastic rice, plastic eggs, but people still rear, you know, chicken and still get the real eggs, you know. So AI can be in the space, but the innovations and the creativity from humans is what AI depends on. So AI will still depend on what humans, you know, create. So that shouldn't even worry designers or the creatives, the creators, you know, that, well, things are now becoming soft, and they're just making people, you know, become lazy. But even when I'm teaching, there are certain tools, or in my performance. You know, I've always protected my body because I regard my body as a whole tool in my performance. That's why I would stay away from trouble, from crime and doing all that, because I know you can easily be taken to Chitalia or wherever. Never plucking, all those safe houses are here, they pluck out your nails, you're beaten, the teeth is out.
Yeah.
So using my whole body as a tool, if you watch me performing, sometimes I forget the scissors, sometimes I just need to bite the thread, I just need to tear the cloth with my hands.
Yeah.
You know, I need all my body, because God is very intelligent. Still, God is the most intelligent. I don't want to call him a person. He's the most intelligent God,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
So he designed man in his own image. So that's what I treasure first, that I should also protect and, you know, I love my body. I love the way God created me, and I treasure that. So that's why I also protect it and use it the way, and I always seek for his guidance, you know, in that angle. But to add on his points, you know, we had many fashion magazines. We started with the Zenj magazine, which I actually featured in.
Okay.
Then we had the African Woman, the Elite magazine by Sean.
Yeah.
Many, then we had, you know, fashion columns in papers. We had one from Ketra, is it Ketra Kamugisa? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I have 1 minute left. I'm going to allow it to Ronnie in regards to what are the opportunities, especially in helping young generations navigate their ways and be in time, because they say these magazines were not in time or for the time. So how do young people in the industry actually get in time to be part of the industry?
Today, you that is listening in and you want to venture into fashion, I think now we need to go back and study fashion. For us, we, as part of Africa Fashion Alliance, we want to go back down to who is teaching fashion.
Okay.
That's where we are starting from, because we can't start with whatever is going on. We have seen a very big problem, but we believe the solution is now to go back to where fashion starts from fashion education. That's when we can now mentor these young people to go right, open better opportunities with sustainable plans, so that they don't get into this congested environment and become a big problem.
All right.
Yes.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and your input. This conversation is not ending today. We'll definitely be having it yet again. Turning back to one last conversation that we need to have, and this is with Ivan Wadanyolo. All right, well, Ivan Wadanyolo will be able to give us that information much later on. But for now, we thank you so much for having been with us all week long here at Morning at NTV. Grateful for your time and your sacrifices, but we trust that we've had some impact that helps you on a social and economic level. Remember, an informed mind is an informed decision. We wish you a very good weekend until we meet next Monday. Bye-bye.
New Pepsodent Herbal. Introducing a unique combination of herbal extracts in an antibacterial toothpaste for strong teeth and healthy gums that protects your family and you. Every smile matters.
NTV, turning on your world.
Welcome to Nation Courier, where your parcels find their express lane to their destination. Are you tired of waiting days for your deliveries? Fed up with missed deadlines and lost packages? Fear no more, because Nation Courier is here to revolutionize your delivery experience. At Nation Courier, we understand the speed and reliability. With our express delivery service, your packages are in safe hands, racing towards their destination with lightning speed across the city and the country with a swift tracking system. Contact us on 0705-884-433 or visit our offices at Airtel House, Plot 40, Wampel Avenue, Kampala, to deliver countrywide. Nation Courier, where speed meets reliability. Your express delivery solution awaits. Nation Courier is a brand of Monitor Publications Limited.
Are you ready to unlock your potential and discover new skills? Join us at the NTV Youth Skills Fest happening on 16th and 17th August at Motif Kampala. From tech and digital skills to arts and entrepreneurship, there is something for everyone. Do not miss the opportunity to learn, grow, and network with industry experts and fellow youth. Mark your calendars and see you there. NTV Youth Skills is proudly brought to you by Nation Media Group Uganda. For more information, please call 0754 663165 and 0777 203954.